Good morning, everybody in the Gompa and everybody online. I've just got an announcement that we have some summer retreats coming up in early January, January 9th, and there's a second retreat in the 30th of January. So please consider coming. It's open for all levels of practice, beginners and experienced, and we'd love to have you here. You can come and stay at the center if you'd like to rent a room and make it a real retreat experience, but you can also drive in if you're local. And we will be hosting the two retreats online via Zoom, so you'll be able to join from home as well. So yeah, please email meditate@chandrakurti.com.au or just have a look on the website for more information. Okay, thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. Today, class, second class. Now we have one more class. Then you have break, summer break. Therefore, today I want to give you more home relaxation. Okay. No homework, home relaxation. Not really sure. 예. 호모 람나 아니 칼레 카운다 직도 코인디나
Mhm.
다 홈 릴렉세이션 람네 때 다디 에 가서래 딜링들다 다 니바들의 산이 딘다 찍네네 너도 딘다 요 말이다 딜란라다 나라서 계절 망고 셰레 다디 예수 디니르와 냠레 탐제 주 디너 기능 당보 통마 고수도 되는 양 수디 오레스와
Mhm.
최바 남베기 최바 냠레 진예지 나야 동화가나 지구요레와 알아서 지 이슈레 힌두레 가제레 딘데 최년은 진예지나 동화가나 지구레스와 디난 냠레 지도나 야고요레스 아나 알아서 디뉴야 최레 더 메니로 공자라 가고요니와 그래서 공자가 가고 여러 디첸 델레라 제가 디인디 디에야 추억의 계제야 말에 공자가 가고 있는 주제네요. 또 뭔가 상담도이나 아니 배 반응로 스트럭처로 지요나 공라와 아니 스스 내가 되니마다와를 직 제는데 거야 열개 가지고 두고 있는데 스스 싱그러와 근데 야보여로 게 디는데 디체메 어디 디체스네 셈나라 반응로지 디가 소토이나 아tom가 디가라 주 디고레스 계정마 당보가 좀 드는 거주도 tom가 되는 게지 칸칸 셰레 디링데 미사오 망고도 아니 인자 연자 tom가 디가라 셰나 tom가 디제메 수수 이메지나라 냠네 체토이나 펜도 뭐스 요레스로
Mhm. So sometimes if I say homework, you don't want to hear about it. But if I say homework, relaxation, that's a bit better. Today's class, there's two left, this one and one more. So I thought to, everything that essentially has been said in this last term from the perspective of practicing Buddha Dharma are these 5 powers or 5 essential points. And it does not matter whatever persuasion you might be, Christian, Islam, Hindu, whatever, everyone can practice them. And some of you might not even have a particular faith, but still want to know about meditation. Also, in that circumstance, these 5 powers are good for having a structure to your meditation practice. And within that structure and practice, you can see in your life if things are improving or not. So once you have these 5 steps in mind, I've already been through them, but I see that some people here today are new. So I thought go through these 5 powers, something that you can use in this life. And if you can practice them, they will be beneficial.
세상에 tom가디 인투유 니마지기 공자나 리면나는 주자위나 다 당보 먼저 쇼베 공자면디 공자 투주디 약쇼 대 쇼베래와 딩선 니마는 것도 아니 쇼베 가잖아네 쇼베 공자디 깁쇼레 약쇼레 누워치쇼레 가르세는 니국대도 심랑에서 대대로와 심데 누워침버로와 심지 누가 첨부해서 그 가래 상당시는 누가 첨부 연구로 와. 제가 쇼베 곰 차상식 야투나를 야마도나 펜베도 없어요. 굴론제들이다. 굴론제들이 유네 굴론제기와 다들 직담은다 요래. 이게 당연하죠. 미창매의 상당히 가래 라위는 펜베도 굴론제들라. 예, 니마 드링네 송아지기로 와. 예, 류다. 마다 이지권에 아니 펜도치기 수수 연유게 토보 통모 남미 빈자 부분 아니 통바 김지 아니 다 미순지 토이나 고가라는 펜도치기 아니 튼둘라 펜도치기 아니 고육성 좀 된데라 펜도치기 있어 고육들라 펜도시나 미당 도와 샘제 튼두 망보질라 펜도 연구도 하셔서 그 주네 고육성 좀 펜도시 뭐 쉬지래도 어제가 니마들이 네 딘데지게 아니 펜도 체제 다 도스드나 디리는 미상보지 미야보지 치기 있어 봐. 그래서 미야보지 치기 있어야 돼. 자외zel 샤고라 미야보 컨데 샤고라라데 미라 펜도 치니지. 지조를 펜도 치니. 수수 능미를 펜도 치니. 봐. 수수 류데 당을 펜도 치니. 수수 심데 당을 펜도 치니 지요나. 되려 미야보 쓰고 알아다. 봐.
So those 5 powers then, we're really looking at meditation in terms of the steps of a daily practice. The best time to meditate is morning. We have long days now. Generally, it's better to meditate early because the mind is fresh. And also because of that reason, the mind has more potency and the mind has more power. So, if you don't meditate in the morning, at least motivate, at least set a good intention. And that intention is concern for others' welfare, the beneficial intention that today may the actions of my body, speech, and mind benefit others. Benefit others meaning those in your vicinity, friends, partners, children, parents, community. And oftentimes throughout the day, we have the opportunity to benefit others, be it humans, animals, or the environment. Of course, if we're helping the environment, then that's going to help humans and animals by the way. So what does it mean to benefit others? The essence of it is that one tries to cultivate a good heart, a kind heart, to be a good person. And, one does that by having that attitude to society, friends, but also being kind to one's body and one's mind.
어디 펜베토스. 대드네 덤니워디 가고 사면 없어요. 당연히 굴론제로 펜도 치긴 캘렌체로. 다 캘렌체에서도 다 펜도 제고로. 저거도 지고요. 아니 펜도 제고로. 아니 펜도디 수수 누벌을 바꿔지 제고래라다. 봐. 수수 누벌을 바꿔. 수수 내단을 바꿔지. 니 텔레 바꿔. 펜도 제고로 매주. 수수 내단을 마바지 펜도 시야가 상로 다 딩상도 지 소셜 미디어다 근데 뉴스이다 담링이 강에 망보지 암전을 코 미그 통연데 데 동에도 세야 통달라 소셜 펜도 시야가 상로 시비스 단 거요라 그러는데 닌제 요자 딩어서 배 타링타네 봐 직내 타링타 이네 수수 뉴어충타 제가 춘의 매겨지간라 먼저 심대신의 투제 망보지 대대고 미망보지 아니 폐 빈규 파샤 수수만 기워지 되고 왔다. 근데 망고였다. 디리디 제가 수수내자를 마법지 간라야 레 펜도시야가 상담 거요. 디 상담 단에 펜도고 말다. 봐. 딜레 펜도 연구 카유 라요요 봐. 카유 라요. 수수무에서 대외 연구로 봐. 미직 미니 근데 초과 지. 하지랑서 신다하게 초과신다라 미 지도라 미겔라 로봇이야 데와데스 커보도 아미가제 로봇 데와스 메자 미겔게 로봇이야 미겔라 로봇 고니 요르들랑도 데와드 메민자 치도문도 다 지난주로 있는 모두 최소대 데와차대라 아래 데와차에서 현안적 최소라 로봇이 빼면 거요래 봐 빼차잖아 지난주 같이 말하는 뉴질랜드미 핸디맨인데 요래 봐 아니 근데요나 이 장아야디 키운제로 장아야도 이 키운제 대 추조도 자를 뭐 가져도로 근데 둘다지나 추조직의 체가서 지운제 뒤에 자디게 장마시 세우지더로 아주 미망골라 편네 그래서 추조디 변은 단달로 있는 핸디메 요마다 매장 자상을 기회제 달라지고 뭐라 아니 부모들이야 뭐지 가든 때다 근데 가보이나 근데 요는 매 가든 가서 자세 보고도 알아 알아 근데 니마다 와르시 용거에 개모라고 둘다지는 추주 직진이 숨데 용샤위나 아니 대편도 알아 어때 내 빼샤고 인지민지양 먼저 추주 될래 용거 내 빼샤고 하면서 저랑도 봐 women center said in the community center, Joe in the refugee gym said in the yore, that in the rest house in the yore, any in the homeless in the watches I yore, any the net and that the minja chanjo in the so what in the door, in the watches I yore, so what Mangudua, the Zula de Ocean. Gewa la lengua se tani de la kawo samu to se gewa sa de wa de podi tangi kuno cheba na shin ni la len la tan ni ge chik ni zi de la len ta de la kawo samu to se ba ni timba na su yen mi de la cha po kan lo se ge je ya wo she ya ro de ta de chung ba la ya ji ge je she ya ro ta tin de ji to zo ro gewa ti le yo de la ma zo la wa che 타는 뭐 유럽이나 팔레스타인이나 무슨 상관 못하니 수수 권나라래 다데 수수 치트베지도는 지워래 봐 건들 팔레스타인이나 유럽인들 zul랑저 로바 수수 누가다 가르치 치트베디 지워래 아침마돈 저제가 상놈만 보시다네 수수 마지로래 네 수수 마지 왜잖아 예 미디제데 마지 버서셔 펜도 주셔서 내지 봐라 이제 들을 싫어 보고 봐라 네 신변시에서 될 싫으면은 당장은 펜도 주셔 내가 지도 어디 가보 사면 없어야 돼 여사야 돼 당주 인지게도 무슨 practical스로 practical 그거다 이제 데데데서 가서 삼로탄제 네 치투비나 야고요레스 디 가보 사면 없어 니와 들어와 돼
So the second of these 5 points, 5 powers, is the power of virtue, or the power of the white seed. Here, you have already set the motivation to help others, to be concerned for their welfare. Then you've committed to do that. Then secondly, one has to put it into practice. This is the potency. But doing those actions, really, one has to look at one's situation. Because oftentimes we listen to social media and we hear news of the world, and that kind of affects us. And we, of course, hearing about the plight of the beings in the world, we have compassion for them. But when we really think about it, on one level, they're so far away from us. And on the second point is, we really have no ability to affect that. So, let alone not be able to affect that situation, sometimes the conditions of that social media are that you get more upset. So really benefiting others must be at hand, close at hand, meaning those that are around you, immediately close to you in the community. Well, sometimes we want to help others, but we can't, maybe because we don't know them or we don't have a connection. But if you have the opportunity to help out, for example, in this situation, in this Dharma Center, if, you know, New Zealand has lots of people that are practical, like handymen, would we say handy woman? So therefore, you can, like here, where the grass is really long, it just takes an hour and a half. So you could cut the grass at the Dharma Center, and then maybe you'd like to do some gardening. Of course, not every day, but just from time to time, once a week. And I'm, you know, just a little bit of time. But this is only an example. Anywhere you can give your service, it could be at a women's refuge center, at a refugee center, at an old people's facility. You know, society has a lot of these places for the homeless, places for beings with dementia. So all of this, if we put it into practice, having motivated, is the power of the white seed, the power of virtue. And if you can't do any of the above, just to sit down with a friend and have a cup of tea and talk with them when they're going through difficulties, that is it. That is it. That's helping those that are close. You know, these things in Ukraine, Russia, Palestine, Israel, how much can we really affect that? And secondly, if we are too caught up in that, that can be the condition for us to be upset, and that will affect those around us. So what's being said is when we cultivate the this ability to help others, you have to do it with wisdom. And that means being the English word practical, you know, those that are close to you.
I had experience, I tell you. You know, most people know Pilipa, you know, Pilipa's father. I met him first came here 2011, and then and we had lots of discussion, and then he's and we have some common question of how West come from happiness, and I give a harmony presentation. I say, outside facility for happiness, for me, just 10%, you know, 90% in your mind. He said, he's opposite. He said, 90% is from money, 10% is your heart. He said, I disagree your view. And we talking next slide, and he said, don't tell me next slide, you know. I need more money, you know. If you have money, you are happy. He's so focusing, beginning. And then later, and we talking. And then, and one day, and he told me, he said, I asked you, just teasing him, you know, this is some coming story. I have funny experience that time. And then lots coming here, you know, people, family go restaurant, and then each person pay their food, you know, the queue, family queue, father, daughters, father, mother, daughter, you know, 5 people queue, pay them each person. I'm last. Someone pay me money. I thought, this is very funny, strange feeling for me. And where is that? And in Tibet, if the one person can pay, no queue, you know, especially family, of course. And there's and it's very tricky, you know, and you know, there's some people a little bit miserly, miserly, and they have money, they no pay. Some people not enough money, they're very generous, they all them they pay. This is no practical. And how do the management? He asked me, because in Tibet we know who has more money, who has less money, and then who has more money, they pay. They know they pay. And then Father said, okay, this reason now I need to pay. And I said, I think you have more money. And he said, yes, I have more money. Okay, then you can pay. And I asked him, how many do you have your account money? He said, don't ask me that. maybe 100,000 or million. He said, I have something, he said. And he said, how many do you have? He's asking me again. I said, I think I have maybe 1,500, something less in my bank. What? He said, what? And I said, yeah, this is lost money. And he said, and he knows that my bank balance and my bank balance. And I don't have a car, and I'm so happy and laughing. And he said, I think you don't have money, you are laughing, you are happy. Something there, you know, something there. And then later I said, I think this no happiness is not really money, I tell you. And he slowly, and I told you need to test. And you needed some helping for people, then you were happy. Not necessarily no need to give money. And then one day I went in, then his place, he has lost a nice apple trees, you know, and lost apples falling down. One person can't eat lost apple, you know, falling down. And I told him, I think I can have you pick up this apple. There, I think 9 or 10 basket, you know, tails. And then give some support the community in the homeless people. And Berlin, they have some homeless people have some organized. One lady give every morning breakfast and lunch. One lady organized. And then he said, okay, I found something. I will give. I can't eat this. And we take some at center, maybe 2 or 3 boxes. And then a few days later, and Philip said, oh, Gisela, what did you tell? Father give me center donation money. He never ever give people money like that. And then next day, I think a few months later, I went there. He said, wow, yeah, you are right. I give this apple three boxes bring their place. And those people come, nice apple, who's kid, thank you, 20 or 30 people give me hug and thank you. And he said, this feeling I have more than 1 month, He said, wow, this is very powerful, I think this is my life experience, I think this is just small action happening. You have joy, this is a wet seed, this is power. This means the power of seed, wet seed. Right? 가고 그외도 가고 세면도 지난 뒤 먼저 먼저 상마 디기도 다 그거라 봐 아니 디기 요새 규디 칠로네와 그냥 상마다 수수응에 직든데 스파 제셔도 디기 연구래 봐 개와 치다 디기 연구 버려 먼저 개와 마셔 디기 연구하라 와체 미딜레 펜도 마체 안도 가젤 파뇨다시 츠뇨다시 아니 가와용 그래라 디기 가와용 그래라
That well-being or dicky or kind of a deeper level of contentment and happiness, it doesn't come from outside, but often we expect to get it without putting in the effort. So without doing things on a causal level that will bring the result, we cannot expect to get more permanent well-being if we don't help, if we're not helping or we're just making trouble. That doesn't work. The well-being comes from virtue.
And sometimes you need more open mind, and then you need communication with your neighbor, I have one thing experience. I went to South Island trip in Granma. And there one old man, we have a B&B, right?
Airbnb.
One old man, and he likes talking, and then other the believer other go and market, and he want to talk conversation. We have chatting, and then we are just conversation. I said and he has a problem is loneliness feeling because his wife passed away, and then he has a daughter or son. They're not much visit, and he has big house. And he said, I'm so lonely. This reason is that I not much need money, but Airbnb means lots of people come and chatting, talking, and then sometimes no people, and I'm not so loneliness. And he said, and I said, you are lost never there, you can talk this never, When you waiting outside in your home, you can talk there. You have 3 neighbors, And he said, no, I can't talk. He said. He's been there nearly 25 years and never ever talk. You can talk. You can say, hello, how are you? Talk, just tell something like that. If you need some help, I can help something to. He said, no, I can't say that. Yeah, you can. And then next morning, and then we went early morning, and then we have evening talk, evening late. And he waiting outside door for me. Where? I talked this morning, this never. We chatting 3 hours, 25 years, never talking, He said, he video us, he so exciting, want to talk some sharing, man. He said, we conversation 3 hours, And other never, and he said, he come to me talk. And I telling this, and next morning, she give hello for him. And he has 2 neighbors talking. He said, wow, this is big different, Just you need some little bit of open mind, open mind. Don't what's that? Close your border, right? Too much private, right? Get.
The notion of this is just mine, my territory.
We have here before this land or John. John's very John, I think, for me, very good relationship with John. And then I think later John's sons on this land. And we no problem, walk everywhere. And later the new neighbor, they don't want allowed, we not go to their walk, And we just block this area. Our walking distance is a little bit smaller. And then other trouble, usually I go there. And they Mark don't want to go there. He put laws this wrong power there. We can't cause it. Cause Benson. You need to careful when you go there, you know. Making a little bit smaller. This is not really nice feeling, you know. Usually so relaxing, go top. Sometimes I do prayer there on the top there. Big tree, under the tree, I do prayer there. Very nice and everything, do prayer. 2-3 hours, just sit there and coming down. And now I can't go there, you know. This is not really nice feeling, you know. Just never how to relax the way, you know. Yeah, what are 지난 편도 시절들라 인지민지 다른 뭐 도구 말해 수수 정보들라 편도 시절로 아니 강의 시대는 정보 깨질 주저로 와 아니 강의 시대에서는 정보를 항상 깨질 주저로 와 다른 것도 깨졌나 영화 그런 거 가지고 그래요 나선라 정보지는 저런 강의는 취재 제거 정보들 가면 하시지는 용기랑 취재로 하시나 이 개체로 내지는로
No. It's good if you have a good connection with your neighbors, that they're not far, because if you get into difficulty, you can call them, connect with them. But if they're in Nelson, they have to come like 40 minutes. But if they're just close, it's...
어디 가부 설명 없어. 저는 편도 시세에 다 개워치야라. 밀라 편도 시야 들어와. 디 수수 치토 같은데 지역으로 해서 들어와.
No. So that's you know, the power of the white seed is how you help others with virtue. But of course, you do what you can at hand according to ability.
나도네 숨바디 콤베트 없어야 돼. 아니 네 치팅마 찍지 편도신. 띵니 숨 수수 가져 시도도 양내 통보 셈나는 콤디스로 편도시야 돼. 근데 뭐스베 편도지 대신에 아니 그 대화대 사브로 다 뉴로 도우라로.
No. The third of these powers is the power of habituation or familiarity. Here, it is not enough to do the action once, but again and again with familiarity to make the mind used to it. And if you do that, you know, regularly, then the connection becomes closer.
다들 순진버서야 되지는 말로 좀 가리유나 매워서야 되래. 지난 이나야 딱갑딜라. 수수 개와치야 편도시야 돼. 란진지게로. 수수 되던도야 지도 많이 봐. 시행가 편도가 바식돼. 된 누가 차야래. 네 파 편도야 돼. 말로 주 편도야지. 네 욕도서 그래. 제일로. 네 동네서 그래. 나도 단다 가르치는 자가 지어서는 수수를 동네 마요야. 밀을 동네 마야 이게 다 곰자고로. 세상 딜란진지래나 동네서 그래. 배나 가르치는 네 단다 밀을 편도야 돼. 말하는 지금 야시디. 대용으로 마셔. 안데 여러 마셔는 미망고직 대로 당에 파디 체로고 대체 님바디테 나라츠 님바디신 토지체 라면도 다이는 미딜레 도고민도스로 미디하고 민도스 가르스는 파 님바 다가지테 나라츠지 데민도 신다 파신 텐주어스 민도스 미도자 쉐도스 아니 semban 마지워셔지 대셔도 저는 디 칸에 주어래 수수랑 지지 데로 내가 제도 수수데 된도야 지디 체로 밀레 펜도지 체요 말 그래서 디 동에서도 세상에서 디 순진배 dobs야 돼. 지난게 교 가리는 레비나 매우서야 돼. 이나 값스 봐봐. 아니 란진지 레브나 개와집에 내가 신변집에 내가 란진지 레브나 디 매우서 그래. 심지와.
The fourth of these is to you know, have an attitude that, you know, one is going to remove negative states of mind or faulty states of mind ultimately, but in the meantime, one has to have a vigilance or conscientious that when you are setting out to help others, that your attitude doesn't be influenced by self-interest or self-cherishing. So this notion of helping others should be solely for their benefit. Oftentimes, you know, we intend to help others, but suffering can be the result, because when we give something, it's almost like we expect them to give you something back. For example, if you give a gift and they don't return a gift in kind or even say thanks, then you say, oh, I helped them so much, but they didn't help me back. So in that case, you know, you're motivated to help, But if that motivation is sullied by self-cherishing or self-interest, then the suffering is the result. But if we really set out to help others, ultimately we're going to remove the faults of our mind, and then the altruism will ensue.
아다 ngoetop스 단당한도 당 ngoetop 냠네데 단당한도 데 아니 검잡지도 단전님도 치고 개와사와데 망고면은 치야 되려와 당근에.
And then the final of these powers is the power of dedication, which comes at the end when you dedicate all of the virtues by aspiration and prayer.
야, 다 근데 이제 당한서 니마치게 곰 그냥 내데 나는 님들라 자고 서바트나 저한테 망고지니 뒤에 윤대 거래 데린데 망고 사와 망고도 되나 양자 아니 니마치 시림기 곰자다데 다데 시림 라오르면 지게 야 곰디 주는 거 아니 미지게 곰디 자고 그랬어 디 맞아레스 맞아 맞아디 요나 아니 뭐 이티가 야게당 거라 세상디 당보디 시림기 곰디 미 당보지게 야고래 곰데 자뉴뉴지게 야고래 야 곰로베데가 로망모 곰 잡지 냠뇨 쉐우사된죠 내저 토벌레니 미지게 곰디 도고레스 인지 미지게 곰디 야고레스
So, some of you, we're looking at this in the context of cultivating a daily practice, meditation, and some of you that have come are new, some have experience. But really, in terms of the basic steps or foundation, whether you are new or whether you are, an experienced practitioner, these are the steps to help you get better, because even the beings that have high levels of insight, they have these steps, they use these processes.
야, 다 그노 곰디 아니 트레이닝에서 류당아 거네 누가 예숨지 거네 수수 예행게 수수 예행게 미들라 가져 편토도 지인스와 한 대전에 심지신 탐질라 편도고 지인스 안 대장마세 캐치슈디 예 수수 예행 미라 편토고 마세 콘솔라야 뇨다다 동에서 오면스 안 대래 마세 수수그 파마단 수수 저와에 이들라 심데소 means that 덴데지 게 드리네지 지기 삼백원에 덴데지 지도비는 먼저 미상보지 차래 한수 당부 미야고지 최고라 미야고지 제세질라 아니 드네 최진이 니와 차고 그래서 미야고 차야라 아니 당부 수수인 미는 편도치 등이 와 페마도는 뇌마지니 다 대치마도나 심데메었어 심데메어 컨데서서나 수수 룰을 다고 야고 자와 류디 당보속으로 와 아니 셈디 되오냐고 와 수수 류디 되오면 셈디 교면은 수수 저어이 미도 셈데란도도 이제는 수수기 저어이 수수 가시이 미들라게 마타이나 셈데메오지 소이스 어떤 님들이는 게 된대지 지기 세제 그런서 캘렌시 물론 다들 편배도 없고 그래 단단 디 나가는 게 편배도 없어야 돼 아디 고조도 되네 두고라 어디레지 곰 잡시 아스라.
So beginning with an intention, motivation that with body, speech, and mind, we will do our best to help others in our vicinity. First, those that are close, and then laterally, we focus on all living beings. But what does it mean then to, and if you can't benefit them, at least don't upset them. And thirdly, don't allow try not to make your actions a condition under which your loved ones worry. So what does it mean then, in that sense, then the first point, to benefit them, first you have to be just basically a good person. And then if you can basically cultivate being a good person, then you can be a good Dharma practitioner. So here, that also means taking care or ownership of your body and mind. So your body might be good, but if your mind is not, that could be a condition to upset others around you. So basically becoming a good person first to benefit.
Oh yeah, that good one, Jeshara.
Yeah, so try and correct that intention, thought to benefit other.
아니마 드리네 징에 밀레 편도지 니 semba samsho asta kulong su to lujamna.
Essentially, today, benefiting others means being a good person, kind-hearted.
Oh yeah, that in the same day. Ansu di ning di pangbo gi de la. Ani dawa gawo sugran shinji gawo wogran shin tiya be dawa dan gawa dan susule ya da semba sambo chewo da miyo wo chewo da as lenje ni sochi. Inde ji yu tenshu asiro shenbing sim di dawe susko asiro wa. Tadi jidang ke nang be chewo na ne nyamlin jidang ke da sawe nyamlin rawa jire de le ta chis. Ani kwanza ishin miman samlo la ma public korana la na sha ge tin za da nge nge logo chimbo che je ti ma jana do la she she go shi di gyun di ma ja sawe gi nyam len ji res ro ni da da kwanza ya ja mu chen ge miman korana la da shin bi gi sim di da ge shin sim se de su tong ya ma wa de da we su kom ne kom ya de yore de na wa yin zang ye ti ring jana do la ma du che che na di yore se da la me ge na wa yo wa da 네, 말하는 얘기다. 지금서래. 그래서 저는 사람들 되잖아. 펜도 연구해 봐. 신비의 심스데. 이제 대하면 요소 차대도. 다외수 것이 되네. 지금 요새 수선은 전부대야 펜도도 봐. 제단디 이제 다외수 것이 신비의 심데. 다와 외가 대야 외 채팅죠. 대야 대화 가와 대화 단다지 세미나를 막기는 놓으시도 테마인기 길하나 예된 주시 텐데지 뭐
Logo.
수교 거래서 봐.
That thought of concern for others' welfare, one can visualize or sense in the level of the heart, in the nature of like a moon disk, in the nature of white light, and its entity is joy and bliss. This is the nature of kind heart. This is not something you can see with your eyes, but it is good to visualize in this manner the beneficial intention. This is a method that is used by His Holiness the Dalai Lama in public, so I thought to share it with you. From the perspective of Buddhist practice, we cultivate uncontrived altruism. And such an altruism doesn't have a physical form, but it is an essence of joy and bliss. This is coming from the Lama's advice. I thought it would help you So it helps you to recall that you've cultivated that commitment to help others, and its entity is bliss, joy, and courage. It's very good if you're feeling a little bit down.
와야 다 아니 틴데게 심디 만나서 니주 야니 돈이 가래 그나 뢰당면스 야고 세디 갈라 그래서는 상상을 만나서 내다 야고로 신디 아니 삼바상 고치야다 미르 펜도 치야디 전부 제로도 뭐 틴데 지기요 말이야 와 카시에 스스 내다 야고 내다 교보관라 파지 미 야고디데 내다 벤조다데 내다 야고 차데 아니 벤가제 철시 미 벤조 민조라 튀준다야다 그래서 너무 빈질로 고마치야다 근데 무도 뭐 된게 지기요 말이죠. 내가 야보관라야는 전부 신변시야는 지기요 말이야. 내가 두자지래 용도 신변시야가 생기 돌기요 말이죠. 내가 두자지가 아니 원에 편도 편토 그래서 그래서는 디기시야의 심난의 레오미 치다시라게 라레기요 말아. 섬로단단지래도. 그래서 디 수수 셈교회 가도라. 교로 자자자용 그래. 근데 교회 가도라. 베나만조 셈게 뉴가 냠 가봐도 지 내가 갈래 가고 싶어지 가도라. 신변시야가 셈데 돌스나는 배강에 가나 강에로. 내가 강에 전부 지역은 신변시에 셈데요나. 어디 나가 신 로덥지 신변 로덥지 레요데. 그래 사와 요된 요지. 와 수술해야 돼. 내 용을 뒤에 내가 두개 내다 시키나. 신변 있으면 도움이 야게 내다 처음에 신변 있으면 도움이 이제 네 챌린지 좋아서 챌린지 좋아.
That very mind of altruism, concern for others' welfare, one makes the resolve not to give it up, not to relinquish it. There are times when things are going well, or we get excited, that we even forget to have concern for others because we're like self-absorbed. And then pride can come. And then instead of remembering others, one could look down on them and not help them. So in that context, then, whether your situation is good or bad, one should not relinquish this concern for others, because really well-being comes from your very mind. It is a mental attitude. It is not externally dependent. So therefore, you know, that attitude of, because if you lose this concern for others' welfare and you face difficulties, that's like heaping difficulties on difficulties. But if you have difficulties and you have this altruism, it gives you courage and new hope. So therefore, if the situation is negative, you don't relinquish that. If it's good, you don't relinquish that.
와야 다 가고 공부를 나가는 게 루니물라 sembasam바 sembasawa 근데 누가지 있으니 천재 아니 가고 공부를 했어.
Now you rejoice that in this old body we have cultivated a fresh, potent attitude, mind.
야, 당연히 농촌식이다. 와, 내가 개발도 좀 못해라. 내가 돌라 민좀내 리그래. 아니 뿡바디 파비제지 개발도 좀 못해. 나고니네 우슈 제 칼레 요런 된 거전에 지금 베티서도 섬다. 디디네 류지 내가 그지 류 담대베 소리 류네 나서 소리도 쉬도야. 안 셈게다 미세 다 셈기 강해로 와. 카레나 디도 파시도야. 아니 우파 당도도 되서 교육을 되서 봐 전송 ten야. 아니 어디데 시제니 우중 공대에서 잡샤다 개지슈디 우대 수고 차차 가와 두고도 봐. 우파 당스도 수고양 회시 심바양 되고 차송 테 어두 시제 공대에서 잡샤스라.
Now, breathing exercise. Here, initially it's fine to close your eyes, but make sure your posture is good, is upright. You know, the torso is balanced and relaxed, the back is upright. We are doing long breaths. And what's important is that you're aware of the breath going in through the nostrils and pervading all of the body, and dependence upon which any notion of the body being tight or constricted on the out-breath becomes no more, and likewise, more importantly, any mental worry, discursive thought is expelled.
와야 다 수고에 되고 셈바에 장문을 차송 된 거래로.
Thinking now, the body is relaxed and the mind is clear and lucid,
어디디 스테이셔로.
and just remain quietly in that mode for a few moments.
와야 다디네 단다 우중 공대자도 miktum 요 말에 mik단지 mik나질라 마 팝스라. 류는 최딘진스 수고 대단지로. 개와도 좀 못되고야 민나들 파야 되게 좀 그래 네 라고 하실 변명관에 되게 주나 디도스 라고니 주지 냠샤스 대비나 아당고 수고 대단도 개심으로 아니 되네 네 가서는 미 당과에도 좀제 가래라이나 개주 망보여래 먼저 곰 당보 자니는 미 좀네 레하여서 여래와 공문에 마 잡이는데 미 좀나 아니 에 니후야 와 아니 미고 세워 매우 차야 와 미고 세워 매우 차니 지원래야 무고래야 대 하장게 디 니믹 첨보서라 아니 그 강연 첨보지 뭐뭐뭐 자니라 sim su du ni hu do ya ni ma de gang ta ni de da zin shi do yi na ya mu ma se wa cha ne mi ko ma se wa cha ne ko mi zum de na ten di de na do je tu se wa me wa shu me wa sim la shu me wa cha sim la shu me wa cha de ne gom de ni wa le cha lo ra ja za di de na mi zum ya de gom ju ru mo ja ni na jön chen bo re mi zum da de mi da da mi na zhe ma rang ja ri hu shi shi ri je ko la ta na shi da me wa su shi de wa ba o du che ani u la da u la san sim le gom de sim ja wa ani u chu dang pa dang wa da de la nge ti yun ne la ge je ma zo ta na chi go sum le shin da la ta na chi go je ma re no chu dang ge do xie ba che 파 땅도 쉐브체 아니 장가져야 들어가 장가직 장가니 있어 대제 숨디가나 도나조 쉐 신다 인연도 나와 담을 샤그래 돌아 도나 마셔나 아니 디기요래 나와 샤워도 나와가도 말하면 되러 이제 냠샤가 내가 뭐 군소지 나와가도 말해 제가 한다면 저 군소지 나와가도 해요 말해 가니 갈래 그래 대가 대할 베전션은 용바 차이니 거로 그래서 어디 인도다 차와 도나시고 숨라래 우수 당기요스 우데스 격스탄 뒤질래 하와 우파 당기요스 안네 장가지 야 우수 당기요스 우파 당기 하데레디나라 사와도 타야간에 사와가시 있으래니 제가 당모서 숨 장가 찍니 숨 제가 숨 겸에 구르와 디갑 근데 장가 시작인다로
Now, we will begin the breathing meditation where we count cycles of breath. But for this, generally we keep the eyes just gently open on the bridge of the nose, in common with the 7-point posture of Vairocana. You know, we make sure that we're relaxed, posture is upright, and sometimes we can put the right palm over the left with the thumbs gently touching at the navel. But the reason we gently open the eyes and let them rest in their natural state has a few points. If we're a beginner, we tend to think that it's easier to meditate if our eyes are closed. But conversely, if you're a long-term practitioner, you'll see that certain faults come from closing your eyes. The mind can be more dull. You can fall to a sinking state of mind or lethargy, and dependence upon which the faults are that, you know, the object that you're focusing on is not clear, yeah, because the mind becomes a bit dull. And when you can't focus clearly on your object, then your meditation has no potency. So therefore, we just let the eyes rest in their natural state, slightly open on the bridge of the nose. And meditation is, what we're doing is just very simple. We're observing breathing in, breathing out. That is it. You don't have to concern about anything else. Just now I'm breathing in, now I'm breathing out. And we will do like 3 cycles of that. If you have appearances of thoughts or wavering thoughts, leave them be. You can't stop them. In meditative equipoise, we don't force to stop thought. You're never going to be able to stop them, but you're focused on your breath. You just simply use the mind to focus. Now I'm breathing in, now I'm breathing out. And you do 3 cycles of inhalation, exhalation, 3 times, making 9. So for those that are new or listening online, this is the steps we follow.
아야 나는 이제 참가 나시 없으면 이제 정하러 예 정말 차스는 예 참가 참시야 아니 뒤에가 생문에다 컨디션도 시와 대화 거기서 무엇이든 대화가 심시한 대쇼스로
Now we will do 5 rounds, 5 inhalations and exhalations, and we'll do 3 sets of those, make 15, at the end of which you just observe your mental state and you settle in the relaxed mind.
아야 다 근데 장가 뒤인치가 서슴 저쇼스로 근데 뉴스타직 차그러 봐 뉴스타직이랑 참샤 아니야 쌤 시와 대화 거기서 뭐 되거나 대도 따라
Now 7 cycles of inhalation, exhalation 3 times, make 21, at the end of which you break and just observe, does the mind have peace, bliss, is it restful or not?
Ngaya ta thanga jansan sha, ane sim tadawa kama, de sha, ta gom yu rungu jani na, ane sim seri cha jayaro, sim dewe kala jayaro, shikaku simbu kala sha, dinde ngu sungu yungurwa, nya le tamo tu dinde, des kago yu na, chilo dwa da kare kona chiu kero, matre kero, kare kona, daji kala sim sha aj tena digore.
Now leaving aside counting the cycles of breath, awareness of present moment. For those of you who are familiar with meditation, you might be familiar with mind's clear and cognitive ability, where there's peace and quiet. If not, if you're a beginner and that's difficult, use any external sound you hear, such as the bird song, as your reference point, and stay in the present moment.
다들 내가 또 제금 잡으러 니 제금 잡은 내가 라 제금데 날래라고 그래 내려서 그래다 고 이제 조조 대고 이렇게 말해 수부 대단 컨데스 되네 니 공장 상다 조 상다 뭐 제버체 대 공라래 제버 제금 쓰바 니 가르상다 단단한 저 제금 주시 가래로 잡았으나 주시디 음 당연한 좀 단다 하고데 사고하셔도 다 곰디 누워치 뭐 곰디 아니 배부부다고 누워 첨부지 야고도 되고요 망고지 누워 첨부도 가려라나 제공도 누워 쳐야 돼 가려 누워 쳐야 돼 배나면 저 닌데 상담들 다 단대 내가 올라서로 먼저 당기 고론 제래 먼저 밀을 편도 치기라고 해요래 다 먼저 디어래 상상은 먼저 밀을 편도 치고 상상은 먼저 뇌도 해요 다 편도 치고 디야고래 야제 가서 따는 디고래 다 뇌베 릭데다 아니 사사라 뭐스 만에나 심제소거 심제세버데 누고라 심제 능가도 수수 자와 하고도 파마 아니 수수 토부토모 자와고네 예도서 수수기 내가 지단하고 다 데지 저방에 뭐라고 던데 다지 차라 장난셔야로 던데다 하다 저바 두자지나 안디게 수수 가외인 다게 당에 돌아도도 좀 심제식으로 딘데게 심제 마 소야기 잘라도 주jen도 다 아니 더 계제슈디 말아주 미리 tundu래 고요래 딘데랑에 내외 내가 가르치기도 와 아니 수수 수불을 내외 내가 가르치기도 수수 심을 내외 내가 가르치기도 어디 상로시 당셔야 돼 곰대스 잡셔 제공지야 되리로
Now we do what's called the analytical meditation or reflection. It's easy in the sense that one doesn't need to sit formally in meditation posture to do this. You can do this whatever you're doing. And it is the analytical meditation that actually makes the meditation very potent. How is that the case? For those of us that are new, well, we do such analysis because initially we motivated, didn't we, to do our best to help others, to help them. But sometimes we help others, sometimes we harm. Of course, we want to increase being of benefit. And whilst we might not directly harm others, when we're interacting with our relatives and loved ones, sometimes things come up by the way, like a bad physical posture you show, or you have bad habits. It's good to recognize these and just observe them, just be aware of them, how they affect, when we interact with humans, animals, and society, but also be aware of perhaps the habits or harms you do to your own body and mind. And that is analytical meditation.
다 수수기 되게 저와 lunga 저와 님바 찍야 세다 다 드링에 네 주바 당기 켈린체 아니 라렌다래요
Yeah, so you recognize one of these bad habits or weaknesses you have, and then you make determination to transform and change it, and that is commitment.
this one, I think on the church is the chapel. You want the church is church is the church at the Jordan Terra, Juju Dan Terra.
Not Allah.
Juju Juakartan on the same the Juatan, Lu Juatan, Ma Juatan. Juakawartan, the Jua Duja Kumshi, the Yagashola to Jua. Did you know the church every time?
And that's important because it is change really that makes one a practitioner, a spiritual practitioner. The essence of Dharma means to transform. Transform what? To transform the mind. So if you can transform the actions of body, speech, and mind from negative to positive, that's really the essence.
Oh yeah, that does change. That didn't on the gom the Gulong Gomje, the Pembe top the che. And the did to you that Chobwe Jatune aware. Goms that the Ujong Lungjon Chia, the Gomjare, they should do that Chobwe machine and you won't to look at the Gamandi. And all the Tangaja, the Yaware, that is Sansan. You married a Yundala, Tima, Kama choose a Kamangase, and Chobwe Jing music, Kasha to do Yedidana. Shogweji Niwoji Kondajiga. Do send a Kandanjilani, so the same with nature to the Parimura. Same with nature Parim, they seem the new church, sim new church, Gomjana new church, and the next sim Tadawagana dead. Sim Tadawagana dead, and now those sim the Tadawagana sharam to you, Janzo. Lega Khanch is a Chawa Tadawa de Ganata, Sim Shower, Kala. Mila Gage Shagu in the Cindy Teganisha, Moratango in the Cindy Teganishire, and it's Luzezi in the Cindy Teganishire. Lojo Chigu in the Cindy Teganishire. And yet Chezan Simdi Tadawa Shasia, the Jushi, the Susu Chawa Khan Shishima de Gana Simdi Shadowina, and they temper them with Chagra. Tisha Matuna on the temper demo major, that and Mima Walla temper demo major, Angedwa.
Tingsan,
Harcheni. Chineda, the chemical, the mount of Yora, Kalana chemical Yora, and the means of Yora, Kashik Mima was a Yora, and then you go to Temple. Da Jujinchita, sometime Mountare, Tambadi, the sing down Satan, Yaya, Mamma, that is sometime Mountain, and Jala to the Kawasha, Hammer, or Tambadi Mara, Jujima Water. To the dinner, that is temper demo many, the Shukchamoredo.
Yeah.
The Gom de Javina, temper demo. Then the Pendo Shiver, and the Neta Jagum de the Kondishuana Shire. Ajangeta, Juataya, Tawadi Tadam, those who joined out there, Sansan Yundelta. On that Digi Canadian wood or Dunia Canadian wood or to Zotaro, Jevache. And to Duje, those of Juadu and she, but to some that. Jagum, the Gomja Shoyorada, John. Odunde Gomja to Ina. And it till the Jagum Severa, Jazan on the Gom de Jet, the jar, that the Jet to do Shirim Michi, Chidan Gomjani, Michi, Gom de Jet Jaguina, and Mazen on a Pentasham or Esra.
So then, looking at meditation overall and the benefits of it, the morning motivation is good to set the correct intention. Secondly, we did breathing meditation. If you can do this morning and afternoon, and some people have the time also to do it in the evening, 10, 15 minutes, well and good. The breath awareness with counting the cycles of breath gives the mind clarity and potency, single-pointedness, and in dependence on this, the mind is potent. And through meditating, you'll find that your mental, power or potency goes up and up and up. And then we looked at being in the present moment. And this is according to whatever your action you're doing, whether you're cooking, working, talking, driving, exercising, studying. In all of those actions, the mind is right there. And it is in dependence on being in the present moment that we cultivate what's called mindfulness or stable recollection. These days, there are a lot of mental diseases, like dementias and things. That's one thing. But also the mind can be affected by chemicals and medications. And there is the condition sometimes that we just overthink things. We're thinking way too much, or we're too busy, under which circumstances we think, oh, where did I leave that thing? Where did I put it down? So, these days, there's so much of that mental degeneration. So being in the present moment, that really helps for stability of mind. And then there's analytical meditation, which has great benefits. So we talked about changing from faulty states of mind into good ones. But also in analytical meditation, you can contemplate your good qualities, like cultivating love and kindness, great compassion. There's so many ways you can do analytical meditation, even just thinking that, things are in the nature of change is very useful. Things are impermanent. And then if you can take these analytical meditations in the context of your life, they can really benefit you.
Oh yeah, 다디네 다디 니마 미다 망고 또 윤디 중나 밀라 펜도제 되면은 밀라 내가만 예사들에 다 도르스 주는 와.
Essentially, the point of the practice is to help others if you can, and if you cannot help them, at least try not to harm them.
다디네 건다 많이 가라고들라 아니 다제시죠. 다디네 내가 논두 가르가르 쳐서 디야 하고 제 교샤체 대린 니마데 장마세 가라 교샤체 샤과체 은사님 신제 미스님의 동생께로 아도시는 니마지라 장마 차송과 아니 디네다 수수 공자와라서 와다 펜도 쳐와다 딘데요나 안데들라 가고 학바르드 수수예 님미드 저게 아니 지금 내가 야게로도 졸라 아니 제수이랑 치고에 계정물에 진 교를 따지면 말에 신이 윤대를 따오르와 윤대 따지 아니 가고 티가고 겨우 공매도야 타나로와 어디 레스니 네 수수 겨우 개회자와디 모면람체 산이게 들을하게 겨우 공자야 근데 망부치기 선배 캔낸 담주제 도스 얘기 도스 도이나 아니 니마치기 너도 메지 된다는데 말도래 아니 니마치 메지 된다는데 봐 미상보 차나 아니 디네 니마니 둘다 다로 도스제네 그래서 지 미스비 메제디 신잠지 단 기부지 거나 용거와 어디 시림기 공부다는데 디네레 디네도 어디 제라 아니 뭐면은 시고스러
So then, having motivated and practiced during the day, at the end of the day, it is good to check up how did the day go, and if there were mistakes you made with others, interacting with them, be aware of them and bring them forth, just observe them, and regret. A degree of regret is good. Cleanse, purify them, because if you do that day by day, then it's like a clean slate. You make the strong resolve not to commit those mistakes again the next day. Conversely, if there have been things in the day that have gone well, you helped those around you. And particularly here with those around you, it's good to rejoice in the good things they're doing. Don't see faults as faults. It's much better that you see the good qualities others have. And that becomes virtuous for you if you recognize others' good qualities. And the next day, you resolve to do better. And if one can implement this, then one day becomes two, becomes a week, becomes a month, becomes a year. And then this life becomes happy and meaningful. And after this comes the dedication prayer, the fifth power.
Oh yeah, that dine 교회 뭐어디 가르쳐 버려라나. 근데 나랑도 교회 자와서 그런데 난 아주 대유니 교회 가르쳐서다. 그런데 대 용바상게 교회 사요. 교회 가르쳐서는 먼저 쳐도라 펜터요래. 말로 펜터야 봐 미직을 펜터는 터라 말로 가르치는 펜터라서는 처럼서 내 마음에는 나게 세세요 말다
Yeah.
아니 매드면은 양 처럼서 그거 말이야 매디 처럼서 펜터가 봐 처럼서 매는 야 매디 기주에서요 말이야 양걸로 펜터라 아니 게 아니 처럼서 파 펜터라 먼저 직 장신주도 파라 매디 파주 자와 직 심볼 딘데지기 건설로 펴지 펜더 되게워래 펜더 제세도 내려왔다고 제가 디라 펜더 다 펜더 버디 개회 자와지어로 먼저 오늘 굴론 잠다냐지 토네 초기 맞다 대초기 말아래 봐 먼저 최소 오늘 짐바래 최소 오늘 초기 맞세 니모 칼라데 상생기 짐바 초기 짐바 어디 먼저 초 냠내래 최소 냠내 와 대치고래 뉴칼라데 필리건 당고래 근데 진짜데 프리로 제가 이 짐바레다 짐바탄고 딜 벨루 메베게 말하는 거 추이 짐바탄 거라 딘자디 겨워봐 진짜 개회 자와디 오면 야고 치고래 디 개회 개와디 담블리 시들 거야 근데 다 오네게 아니 지 발스진다 유그렌다 저 모두도 시야 명은 어디 자오다 그래서 개와 자와디 콘조게니 지 모두디 시와쇼스 개회 자와디게 다단다 탤런다 도와 스리랑카다 도와 출로 쇼네 녀가 쇼도 저도 미망 것이도 봐 저도 출로도 주변에서 아니 메롱사 사용 이래요 미스베 니즈만 거죠 그래서 아니 그래서다 동에 미시도 얘도나 기내야 것이래야 뭐 선보대녀도 이나지 내와도들 면줘야 오라야 뭐 저것도 봐도 칼라야 오라야 아니 미탄다에 얘도 레가디 메제디 전다에 와지 메제디 지골 고호마 되어 싫어 메제디 지골 둘도 내고 열어 맞아 둘을 하고서 지옥으로 와야 미즈들 레벨은 딜레 하고서 뭐셔 둘을 야가지 치료시 미드서 그러봐 정말 상고체 아니 진대지다 그 줄이야 정말 뭐 찬주스 학과되면 뒤에 말하면 이제 그런서 자오라 찹색이 내가 진행돼서 유라 자고도 아니 미 주초보도 유라 자고도 미 주초보다 찹색 레전이 유라 닝제도 자월해매지 요나 전물리는 요로던데 요야고라 요말에 먼저 우부다 주고ኞ라 요말에 우주근 요라도 쉬어지러 왔다 가시에 빼샤 마라 가시에 빼샤 망타네 강에 가래 닥스사기 요래 공부담문더뇨 다 지야 망타 지야 배제니 마삼바 마지와 차데 되니 빼샤 망타 동에 빼샤 뇽다베 동에디 빼샤 유니는 자와면 총으로 다 찹시기 전에 다 뇽다데 소니다 다 세우라 마자도 당고에서 마자고래 총그 마자고 요래 등산 체리게 파주다 투제 전에다 파주 총 비즈니스 전에다 아도 상황에 소소게 아니 데려와서 자와면이 충격 전야로 와라 먼저 dumde 동해요야 상마 제베 또 도리스도나 반대 지도데 망보 지도 망보지 잠재 풍배 지도 차다
Yeah.
잠재 풍배 지도 차네 밀어 동해 돈돌 동해 중으로다 지도 먼저 지도 그러는라 잠재지 용어쇼 이게 기회 잡아대 어떤 데스지네 심팅네 뭐면 잡쇼 얘들은 뭐 cik하지 되게 cik도야 그 돈다데 어디게 요레스로
We dedicate the virtues. What is virtue? That you have just come here is virtue. To the Dharma Center is beneficial because if you don't come, I don't have a job. I have nothing to say.
Drinking a cup of tea,
Yeah.
relaxing.
And if Matt, the interpreter, is not here, you don't hear. And if you don't come, there's no job for Matt. So I think that all of that is interdependent, and that is all virtue. It's very simple. And the thought of benefiting others has roots. It has like an energy. And when we share things at the Dharma Center, it's a type of generosity, actually. It's the generosity of Dharma, but also that you can eat a lunch meal is is free. And that's the generosity of giving material things. So 2 types of generosity. So those things there. And coming to the last has that type of virtue and merit, and that merit has an essence. And that essence, that is what we dedicate to world peace, that one. That there may be no disputes in Ukraine, Russia, Palestine, and so forth. We dedicate this energy, these roots, to world peace. That in Southeast Asia, they have experienced flooding under which many people have died. We dedicate for them. And all the other problems that are due to the elements, fire, earth, air, water, being not in harmony. And then there's also these man-made difficulties, aren't there? You know, because there are cases where people are very healthy in body and mind, but with that, they don't set out to help others, with the environment or animals. And really, in some cases, then we're no better than animals. Really, that there are people that are hungry and poor, and we need to help them. And to this end, we try to cultivate the bodhicitta mind, you know, this altruism that's concerned for others. And this is needed particularly in the context of the leaders of the world and the politicians. You know, sometimes if the leaders and politicians could cultivate love and kindness and great compassion, then there wouldn't be such a big gap between rich and poor. And then in some cases, people are so rich, they go to excess with their wealth, you know, too much luxury, taking drugs and so forth. So these things are important that our leaders cultivate concern. And even in a business context, when people compete for profit, then really we can start to see that a lot of the problems in society or the sources of the suffering is because we're bereft of love. So when society becomes bereft of love and concern for each other, then humans get into difficulties. So my words of dedication are that the society goes well and we have a concern for each other. And that's what these verses mean.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, please everyone come and join us for a freely offered lunch in the house. I think we've got some soup and bread for everybody. Thank you.